the teaching on Mara, okay, the bitter water. Now we'll go to manna and quail. Okay, let's go to chapter 16. By the way, this knowledge of God thing, God said this, do not use the name of the Lord your God in vain. Meaning, you don't just say, the Lord said this, if you're not sure. Because when that happens, it affects other people's lives. You know, this week, well, I have been following this. A lot of prophets have been apologizing. You know, that means they didn't even believe in their own prophecies. And one of the comments that I hear from one of them said is this. He said, "Let's move on." You know, well, it's a good pep talk. But think about this. If you think you know God, or if you think you heard from God and you told other people, and they already acted on it, you cannot just say go on. You know, like let's talk about, say, investments. Somebody told you, well, the Lord told me this is going to be a good investment. Well, the people lost money, and debts are incurred. What do you mean by move on? And so this is very critical. That's why if you will remember, I told you that prophecies are supposed to confirm what the Lord already told you. But it has evolved, especially in our days. Some people do not seek God anymore. I think, to a certain extent, we treated these prophecies like fortune telling. When the Lord uses somebody to give a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom concerning your life, it is supposed to be a confirmation of what the Lord already told you. And so now you don't become dependent. I have seen prophets prophesy over people that they are called by God, and I was thinking to myself, where in the world did that come from? Because you know the person is not called by God. Now, of course, you will back off a little bit in caution and say, well, you do not know what God really wants for that person's life, because God can even use a donkey to preach. That is true. Can God use a donkey to preach? Can God use a donkey to talk? Okay, to preach. That's talking. Well, if you want to be like a donkey, then you preach for 30 seconds. That's it. They keep emphasizing God used a donkey to talk, but he only used a donkey to talk for around 30 seconds. That's it. So if you want to be a donkey, then you're going to be a 30-second preacher. But there's no other stories wherein God used a horse or a donkey. The devil used the snake to talk. So what happened? Man fall. You know, so two animals that talked in the Bible. One is a snake, the other one is a donkey. And one is longer than 30 seconds, I guess. So we have to be very careful in context of what we say. Some of you, people have prophesied over you that the Lord called you. Be very careful with that. Unless God told you first, don't believe a word. Okay? If I tell you all kinds of prophecy that went over my life, I will begin to think I'm Superman. Especially when people wants to brown nose on you. They say all kinds of prophecy. But the Lord has got to say something in your life. Now, you have children, you have families that looks for wisdom from you. Now, your knowledge of God will be tested by that. I have seen people, for example, move places. I mean, they just ruin or wreck each other's lives. And they say, we pray about it, the Lord gave us peace. Really, did the Lord give you peace? Because if the Lord gives you peace, then the path is prepared, and there will be a way by which you can prosper. If that doesn't happen, you have to be honest and be willing to address whether your knowledge of God has depth that you can anchor your life on. Now, we know what happened to Israel after the Exodus. That was just overnight after the Passover. They plundered Egypt. And then 24 hours later, they thought they're going to die. Now, we know they packed food and all of those things, but now here's another test. How well do you know God? Exodus 16, starting on verse 1. The entire Israelite community departed from Elim and came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month after they had left the land of Egypt, the entire Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt when we sat by pots of meat and ate all the bread we wanted. Instead, you brought us into this wilderness to make this whole assembly die of hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. This way I will test them to see whether or not they will follow my instructions." So see, the manna is a test, whether they will follow the instructions of the Lord. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Now, look at this. Is eating manna, gathering manna and eating manna, is it a positive or a negative thing? Positive thing, because you're gathering, you're eating, right? But it's a test. You see, sometimes when we think the Lord is testing us, we are thinking that the test is negative. We are thinking, will I date this man or will I date this woman? Will I go, will I fall for this? We are thinking negative. But one of the things that you will see the Lord test you on is on positive things. Eating manna, gathering manna is a positive test. But the test is whether you will follow the instructions of the Lord on this positive test. And so the test could be our job. The test could be our career. Like, for example, if you begin, if we will be strict over this, when the Lord says, "Forsake not the gathering of the assemblies together," well, you have a job. And God says, "I gave you a job. You're supposed to work 6 days. On the seventh day, you're supposed to rest." Or on the Christian term, you're supposed to celebrate the day of the Lord. And you say, well, this manna was given to me, or this job was given to me, but God said, on the seventh day, I am going to have your undivided attention. So it's a positive thing. But a lot of people fail on that one, like Israel. They thought that God could not provide, so they gathered more. In fact, some they gathered on the seventh day, and they found nothing. And it's a big commentary on our lives. Because if you think about it, a lot of people who violated the day of the Lord and are working, they are not better off than the rest of us. I mean, they are more sick because they are not resting their bodies. But financially, they are not better than most of us. And it's because there is no blessing. The blessing that you can have on that day is the presence of the Lord. But there is no blessing as far as extra material thing is concerned. Why? Because it's given on the sixth day. And God, I'll give it on the sixth day. But we keep thinking, well, this is the job required. I understand all of that. I really do. Some of our medical workers, you are petitioned by your company, and so you're obliged. But you've got to realize that you need to have a day with God. I'm not talking about day off here. You need to have a day with God wherein you will be able to replenish spiritually, and that is what God wants. So Moses and Aaron said to all Israelites, "This evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the Lord's glory, because he has heard your complaints about him. For who are we that you complain about us?" Moses continued. "The Lord will give you meat to eat this evening, and all the bread you want in the morning, for he has heard the complaints that you are raising against him." Who are we? Your complaints are not against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses told Aaron, "Say to the entire Israelite community, 'Come before the Lord, for he has heard your complaints.'" As Aaron was speaking to the entire Israelite community, they turned toward the wilderness, and there in a cloud the Lord's glory appeared. The Lord spoke to Moses, I have heard the complaints of the Israelites. Tell them at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will eat bread, and until you are full. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. So at evening, quail came and covered the camp. In the morning, there was a layer of dew all around the camp. When the layer of dew evaporated, there were fine flakes on the desert surface, as fine as frost on the ground. Then the Israelites saw it. They asked one another, what is it? That's what you mean by manna, by the way. Because they didn't know what it was. Moses told them, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as each person needs to eat. You may take 2 quarts per individual according to the number of people each of you has in his tent. Now, this is God's blessing. Notice, it didn't say, eat as less as you can, because this is limited rationing. He said, as much as you need, okay? I mean, some people eat more than the others, especially the growing ones. So the Israelites did this. Some gathered a lot, some a little. When they measured it by quarts, the person who gathered a lot had no surplus. And the person who gathered a little had no shortage. Each gathered as much as he needed to eat. Moses said to them, no one is to let any of it remain until morning. But they didn't listen to Moses. Some people left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and stunk. Therefore Moses was angry with them. They gathered it every morning. Each gathered as much as he needed to eat, but when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the 6th day, look at this, they gathered twice as much food, 4 quarts apiece, and all the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. He told them, this is what the Lord has said, tomorrow is a day of complete rest. Say complete rest. Oh, we all need this, huh? A holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake. Boil what you want to boil. And set aside everything left over to be kept until morning. So they set it aside until morning as Moses commanded, and it didn't stink or have maggots in it. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you won't find any in the field. For 6 days you will gather it, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will be none. Look at this, 27. Yet, on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather. They did not find any. You see? Can you imagine applying this directly? And again, I tell you, those who work eight days a week, we have been at church we will be celebrating, what anniversary? What kind of anniversary do you have this Sunday? 25th. Okay. I have seen people work 8 days a week. Their lives are not any better. Think about it. They can't even say their life is better than mine or better than anybody else. Some of them are in so much debt, you will think, what in the world happened? Because you think you are gathering on the day of the Lord. It says you're not going to gather any. You see, you have to learn how, and this is actually based now on your knowledge of God. By the way, even students, you say, well, students, they have to take test. Then study during the non-day of the Lord. You think students who don't come to church have better grades than those who come to church? Think about it. Some of them are worst. You know, so when a student comes and says, oh, I have review, why are your grades better than those who come to church? Most of the time, it's not. So if you think about it, what are we doing? It is a test of our knowledge of God. Whether we can follow the instructions of the Lord or not. Now, this is now a factual comparison of how we are living our lives. And we have 25 years to as data. You know, we have 25 years. And so when students today tell me, well, I have test, are your grades better than those who come to church? And I'll tell you this, it's not. So what are we doing? Well, I've got to take advantage of this opportunity. Are your finances better than those who celebrate it on the day of the Lord? You know. And that is a very simple test, actually. Okay? How long will you refuse to keep my commands and instructions? Understand that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, look, I like that statement. Understand that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. So what is God giving us on the first day? From the story. Manna. From the story, right? What is He giving us on the second day? Quail. Manna. What is He giving us on the third day? Manna. What is He giving us on the fourth day? Manna. What is He giving us on the fifth day? Manna. What is He giving us on the sixth day? What is He giving us on the seventh day? Sabbath. If you want to receive God's gift, His gift on the seventh day is Sabbath, not manna. That is as simple as it gets. But we keep demanding the manna. And God says, I am not giving it to you on the seventh day. Well, I'm receiving something. It's not from God. Because God already said, what I am giving you on the seventh day is manna. I am not, on the seventh day is Sabbath. I am not giving you any manna. You will find nothing. Well, I found something. It's not from God. You see, it is a trap from the devil, and we have to be very careful what we are receiving. Okay? Therefore, on the sixth day, He will give you 2 days' worth of bread. Each of you stay where you are. No one is to leave his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. The house of Israel named the substance manna. It resembled coriander seed, was white, and tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. 2 quarts of it are to be preserved throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. Moses told Aaron, take a container and put 2 quarts of manna in it, then place it before the Lord to be preserved throughout your generations. Now, there's no preservative there, but miraculously, if we find the Ark of the Covenant right now, there's manna in there. It's preserved. But we cannot see it. Why? We're not high priests. Then place it before the Lord to preserve it throughout your generations. The Lord commanded Moses. Aaron placed it before the testimony to be preserved. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until the day they reached the border of the land of Canaan. They used a measure called an omer, which held 2 quarts. Now, this is now around 2.5 months since they left Egypt. So they have been walking around for around 90 days. For around 60 plus 15, 75 days. And presumably they have consumed all their dried fruits, their dried food. You know, their beef jerky or lamb jerky or goat jerky or whatever. They have finished all of it. I don't know if they butcher any animal on the field, but they are not out of food. They are running out of food. And sometimes people get nervous, you know, when we don't have in our account the money that we need for the next year. I mean, that bank account really makes people nervous. Have you ever looked at your bank account and almost collapse? Because when you look at it, you say, man, the house rent, the mortgage payment is is almost due, and I don't have it. My car amortization is due, or I'm late. It can be repossessed. That is if you don't have the depth. Well, I don't think the depth of knowledge of God is really that accurate. I've been musing on this term. How deep do you think is a baby's knowledge of their parents? It's not that deep. All they know is the face of their parents. They don't even know their name. They can't even write their name. They don't know their social security number. They don't even know. Do you think a baby, when he is crying, asking for milk, is he saying, "Mom, do you have money in the bank? You know, buy me some milk." He doesn't. He doesn't have the depth of knowledge that adults have. And so I think I have to back off from that statement. It is a test of depth of knowledge of God, but it's just a test whether you know your God or not. Now listen. Now this is one of my observations. Living by faith, again, is reasonable, but living by faith should not be hard. Yeah. When it dawned on me, I was reading Proverbs, and it says there, the way of the wicked is hard. Isn't that in the book of Proverbs? Well, it should be, if you have read it, okay? The book of Proverbs, the way of the wicked is hard. Now, the opposite of that, God already prepared the path of the righteous. Living by faith should be easy. How come it's not easy? You know, when you begin to make a comment, living by faith is hard, you are corrupting the scriptures. The way of the wicked is hard. It's not the way of the faithful. The way of the wicked is hard. So when you begin to say, "Oh, this living by faith business, this is hard." No, it's not supposed to be. Because only the way of the wicked is hard. But the path of the righteous is like the dawn of the morning. It gets brighter and brighter and brighter. Look, during dawn, when sunrise is about to take place and a percentage of light is hitting the face of the earth, you say, "Well, a little bit more, the sun," it keeps getting brighter and brighter and brighter. Meaning travel becomes a lot more easy, you know. And in fact, sometimes in a cold winter or spring day, as the day progresses, the temperature gets better. The way of the wicked, though, keeps getting harder and harder. The more you get into wickedness, the more difficult it gets. You lie to cover that lie. You have to come up with another lie. And sooner or later, you cannot keep track on your lies. And you do not know which lies you have lied about. Listen to the interview of these politicians. You know what they said 5 years ago. You know what they said 2 years ago. You know what they said yesterday. And they're changing your date. You have to come up. It's hard. You know, can you imagine some of these politicians, they have coaches on what lies they have made, so they cannot contradict their lies today. You see? The way of the wicked is hard. So when you begin to say, "Well, I'm living by faith," it's hard. Discipline your tongue. Living by faith should not be hard. Why is it hard? It's only hard when you are fighting it. It was difficult for that generation to live for 40 years in the wilderness. They're full of grumbling and complaining because they're supposed to march to the promised land. But when the time came, they said, "No." That's when it became difficult, you see. But had they marched in, okay, it would not have been difficult. Now, test our knowledge of God. How you're living today will affect largely the life of your children, the next generation. Okay? Let me ask you this question. How many Israelis do you think were born in the wilderness? How many? Maybe? Why? Because the generation of those who are 20 or 21 years, John. What age? The one who died, 20 or 21 years above. Anybody remember? Yeah, something between those two, 20 or 21, okay. So they all died, right? So those under that age grew up. Why are they doing the wilderness for 40 years? Because if you are 20, after 40 years, how old are you? So what did they do for the last 40 years? They multiply. Now let me ask you this. Those children that were born, you can assume the oldest is 40 years old. Those who were born in the wilderness, do they know what a city looks like? Do they know what an orchard looks like? Do they know what a vineyard looks like? They don't know. Okay, they don't know. They are only hearing it from the story, or the stories that they were being told. So there is this level of excitement. I want to see it. Remember growing up when they talk about America, wow, people in America, they are white, and they are tall. That's what I was being told, white and tall. And I was told they are over 6 feet tall, only to find out the average American height is something like 5'8" or 5'9". That's the average American height, I think the average Filipino height is something like 5'2" or something like that, But American height, 5'8" or 5'9". But I was told that's over 6 feet tall. So I thought everybody was just very handsome and all of those things. I didn't realize there are ugly people in America. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Yeah. But then on the negative side, I was told that all women are loose. I never realized that there are some excellent women in America. You see? I was ignorant because I have never been to America. I have never seen it. I thought this place is super clean all the time. That's what I was imagining. Well, one of the places I went to is New York. Before Mayor Giuliani. You know how New York looks like before Mayor Giuliani? You walk through Manhattan. I mean, downtown Chicago, before the riots, was a lot cleaner than New York. Our Chicago downtown is a lot better than Manhattan. So Giuliani cleaned it up, So what happened after Cuomo sat in? It was made dirty almost overnight. I never thought America is like that. I was driving through some cities and there are graffitis here. Worse than the graffitis in the Philippines. Why? Spray paint is expensive. You think those Filipinos will buy that? What are you going to use? You see? And I never thought that there are places in America, listen to this, worse than the Philippines. There are places in America that you go to worse than the Philippines. I never thought of that. And then I was thinking that America is like paradise. I mean, you visit Singapore, America will be embarrassed on how clean Singapore is. How clean the air is. America is not the most beautiful place in the world anymore. I begin to realize I was sold a story that wasn't true. I was even told that the politicians here are not corrupt. Boy, they're just as corrupt as hell, If you think about it, it's something that stories never told me, you see. That affects my knowledge of this country. So now, you have a generation born in the wilderness. Their faith is affected by what their parents told them. The faith and life of your children is affected by the stories you tell them, by the standards you give them. You see? And the thing is this, children, until they develop some common sense, if you raise them to have common sense, they will gravitate upon the words of their parents. And even if their parents are liars or corrupt, they will choose to believe their parents. And the amazing thing is, that's how they will pattern their life after. So our knowledge of God is transformational. Now, when they thought they are running out of food, they went back to their default behavior. What's the default behavior of the Jews? They grumble. In the Philippines, we have a term for that, reclamador. You know, complainer, reclamador. There are people that just, the moment they open their mouth, all they can see is the negative. You know, I have met some people like that. You invite them to eat in a restaurant. This is a very beautiful restaurant. They walk in. Ano ba namang klaseng waitress yan? Laging nakasimangot. They will always look for complaint. And the food is served, lousy service. You know, these are reclamador in Filipino. They are habitual complainers. They will not see the positive, always negative. Their complaint is about food. There is no indication that they are out of food. Maybe they think their bank account is getting low. But it is not in accordance when you begin to complain about food. It is not in accordance with the personality of our God. The personality of our God is, He is our provider. When my wife was complaining to me about when our money is getting short, and she is very upset because after some time I begin to I don't know if it's positive or negative, ignore it. Yeah. We cut the tithe. Whatever is left, that's what we live on. My wife is the money person. She is a very good manager to me. And she's the one who always goes. And she'll tell me, don't do this, don't buy that. I said, but we need it. Well, don't you know? Give me more money, she will tell me that. And I will just look at her and tell her, don't worry about it, that's not your problem. That's my line tomorrow. That's not your problem. Yeah, but it's 2 more weeks. I said, that's not your problem. I said, God gave me the problem of leadership. God gave me the problem of providing for this family. That's not your problem. I said, your problem is to use what we have. But that's not your problem. Guess what? We never lack. But in spite of that, she chose to make it her problem. It's a choice. It's always problematic for her because she is trained to manage businesses. She is trained to manage money. So she cannot get it away from her head because from business perspective, you are spending capital, there needs to be some principal coming in or profit coming in. That's her training, you see. The training of faith is different. It's based on your knowledge of God. If you are a Jew, the Lord has been providing. You are beginning to look at your stock pantry and you say, whoa, it's not as much. You know, kids, let's begin rationing. Instead of eating 2 figs today, half each. So it will last. And they feel, they never consider the fact possible that keep eating 2 figs. If it run out, God may multiply or God will provide. But they decided to take it upon themselves that if God is not going to provide, they will provide. You have to choose that, you see. You have to choose whether you will be your own provider or God will be your provider. There can only be one. Because if you choose, you will be your provider, God cannot provide. You see? But if you choose He will be your provider, then you have to follow the instructions of the Lord. So their complaint is exaggerated. When Abraham was told by the Lord to sacrifice Isaac, he said, God, we will come back, he said to the servants. We will come back. And he told Isaac, God will provide. When he said God will provide, he didn't know that there was a ram caught in a thicket. You see? In fact, I think the ram was playing in the mountain when finally when finally Abraham held that dagger about to put it on the chest of his son, then the ram was caught in a thicket. He didn't know that. But prior to that, Abraham already said, we will return. Meaning in his mind, in his heart, if this boy dies, if I burn him, God has to bring him back from the ashes so we can return. And by the way, you can picture it as a new birth because when they returned, Isaac was a different man. He doesn't look the same. Something glorious came supernaturally upon him. Their complaint is exaggerated and unfair. First, they were slaves in Egypt. Slaves don't eat down to eat to their hearts' satisfaction till they drop. Time limited. You know, in working with contractors, sometimes you will see it. To one time, Lowell House, my wife decided to prepare a sumptuous meal for the workers. I see them in their truck with a thermos, with how do you call that? Noodles or something. And they'll just drink it up. And their boss, I remember the name of the boss is Stanley. I mean, they're giving something like 10, 15 minutes to eat. After the boss drank the last noodles, he says, okay, boys, let's go to work. So at one time, my wife told them, eat with us. And they won't, no, we have to finish this. And so my wife asked the boss, I would like to cook for you guys because you're so nice to us. When can we have lunch together? So they made the point, okay, on this day we will have lunch together. So we were eating lunch. And I remember those men, they ate it. I mean, like give me that. Less than 30 minutes. After around 30 minutes, I thought we'd have a little chat. Stanley said, we're done. Go back to work. That's what hired men do. You know, slaves are worse. So they don't sit down to eat to their satisfaction. They are accusing Moses, which actually played to God, of a malicious intent to bring them out of Egypt to make them all die of hunger. First, their accusation was, did God bring us out because there's no graveyard in Egypt? Now, the accusation changed. He wants us to die of hunger. The response of God is He will send food and meat to them with special instructions on how to. Have you noticed some of these accusations that Israel placed against God? God addressed but did not address Israel. You know, in Tagalog, hindi niya pinatulan. Can you imagine if God took it personally, they will all be dead. And the instructions of what to gather, 2 quarts per day. On the 6th day, 4 quarts. Miracles are manifestations of God's glory. Provisions is a test whether you can trust the word of the Lord that He will provide. You know. Now listen. The Democrats in their respective states are now beginning to ease up on COVID restrictions because Biden's are in office. Don't be fooled into thinking they have to really manage this. If they say everybody can work tomorrow, what will happen? There will be national chaos. Over 50% of these people have no more work. Can you imagine if you lift the restrictions tomorrow and over 50% have no work, what will they do? That's a recipe for thievery and chaos. They really have to manage this now. Because now, even if you want to lift it, over 50% of the businesses will never return. You open up the economy tomorrow, what will they go back to? Some of the teachers, they got so used to being in the house, teaching in their pajamas. The majority of the teachers, they don't want to go to school. Majority of the students, they don't want to go to school. They got so used to it. Opening this giant is not as easy as people think. You really have, when you say everything is fine now, what will this 50% who doesn't have anything to go back to do? Suddenly you have to continue the quarantine. I don't know how they're going to manage this. You see? This is now a test for us whether we trust that God will provide. By the way, some companies are hanging by the thread. They don't know what they're going to do. Now, this is now, well, as far as me and my house is concerned, when I had no papers, God provided. When I have papers, God provided. When I was a student, God provided. Not always luxurious, not always plentiful, but God has always provided. Therefore, there is no transition for me. God provides. I don't need to transition. God provides. If there's in the old days, when I was a student, if there's an opportunity for me to work, say move things for my neighbors and they pay me, I move. Something to be done, I do. But in all of those years, my wife sell beauty products. Now she can no longer sell them, she did a lot of things before, she cannot do now. But one thing stayed for us. God provides. In the midst of this, my wife is more happy now financially with me than ever. Yeah. Because the Lord kept providing. DJ, she did not apply for this. I don't know if she told her friends already. She's got a scholarship, but is it this week that you told us the news? She just got a scholarship that she never applied for. She will be receiving an additional $2,000. Is it per year? Additional $2,000 of year's money. There is this benefactor from Northwestern University. She did not apply for the scholarship, but she was looking, or he was looking, for some people that he can give money to, and there's only one requirement. They should love missions. Of all things, they should love Christian missions. Now, how many students do you think love Christian missions? But it's in her resume. She goes to mission. So the benefactor says, you're having extra $2,000 per year. She never applied for this. When my wife heard that, she said, what's the percentage for me? So she's more happy now financially than when we started. But nothing changed. God provides. You have to prepare your heart for this year. I believe that our study of the Word of the Lord should really be strengthened, because faith comes by hearing and hearing. You will hear a lot of prophets, especially those who prophesy, justify themselves. We don't have to do that in here. But we will continue to strengthen our study of the Word of the Lord. And when we do that, our faith will continue to be strong. Miracles are manifestations of God's glory. God appears to us in the form of miracles. So for example, when my daughter just got this $2,000 extra scholarship that she never applied for, that's God appearing to us once again. That's the Lord saying, I'm here. I know you never applied for it. And DJ's faith has got to see it right. She never applied for it, but God just stood by her side and said, I'm here. I know you didn't apply for it and you don't feel like you need it, but I want to just bless you with $2,000 extra. While some people are working their butts off to make extra $1,000. She doesn't have to. She never applied for it. That is God saying, I am by your side. You see. Miracles are manifestations of God's glory. The word of the Lord happened as Moses communicated to them, to the people. As it turns out, listen to this. As it turned out, all were treated equally. When the government rations, the government says, you have a ticket during government ration of RCA in the Philippines back in the, I think, 70s or 60s, I forgot. I was a little kid lining up for this RCA, rice corn administration. Rice grains mixed with corn. You'll be given a ticket and you can have 2 bags or 3 bags. Doesn't matter if you have 10 people in your family, 2 bags. Here it's different. If you eat a lot, you will have a lot. You will not have more than what you need. If you eat little, if you gather little, you will have no shortage. That in itself is a miracle. Now listen to me. Do you think the feeding of the 5,000 was first? This is bigger. How accurate are you in your measurement? Huh? Sometimes you say, this is all I'm going to eat. But have you noticed when you're eating and you like it, what happened? Eat more. But nobody was sure. That means if I estimated, this is all I'm going to be eating. But while eating, it was prepared by my mom so good that day, I want more. He is satisfied. So what happened? Your gathering did not increase. I think the multiplication of manna, of food, started there. Yeah. Think about it. Nobody, I work in carpentry from time to time. Sometimes I think, James was working with me several times, and I told James, cut me 15 1/4. And he'll cut me. I said, James, how come it's short by 2 inches? Oh, Papa, it's 15 1/4. I said, let's measure. Oh, it's 30 1/4. Well, when I was measuring it, it's 15 1/4. Oh, it's a miracle. It shrunk. Because even though you are good in measurement, you will miss it, especially when you're getting tired. So can you imagine, that's 2 quart already. There are a couple of millions there gathering these flakes. So he gathered a little bit less. But when he is eating, he's fully satisfied. Miracle every day was taking place in that camp. What is it doing? People should be saying, God is with us. However, they choose not to believe that. And you can be receiving miracles right now, but you choose to believe that. Now the reason why they didn't believe, so here comes the test. 6 days, they gathered for 2 days. And that's the only day, the 7th day is the only day maggots will not have access to this food. Maggots only have access to disobedience. Okay? Maggots doesn't have access to disobedience, to obedience. But if you're disobedient, maggots will eat up what you think you have for extra. Yung Pilipino na sigurista, sigurista. When Brother Willie and I were giving books or tapes, sometimes when Brother Willie give books, he will say, 1 for each. Oh, you should see some of these pastors. Dagdagan mo na extra. Are you going to read the book twice from different copies? I mean, think about what's the sense? I'm going to get 2 copies. Why? How many times are you going to read it? I don't care if you read it 10 times from the same copy. Oh, I've read this book now. I'm going to read this book again from a different copy. No, you don't. But that is sigurista. You see? And I think that is what we are displaying when we refuse to listen to the instructions of the Lord. The blessings of the Lord on the Sabbath day is not bread for the flesh, but bread of life. The blessings of the Lord on the 7th day is not manna or quail. The blessings of the Lord on the 7th day is the Sabbath day. Now listen, this Sunday we're going to gather, right? What is the blessing of the Lord this Sunday? The food that you guys will be sharing that day itself. Thank God it's Sunday. God gave us Sunday before the rest of the world stops on Sunday. No more now. That day is what God is giving to us. It's a blessing. God says, I'm giving you this day.
Follow my instructions on this day. I'll take you. We think, I don't know how many of us have thought that these days are a blessing. The first 6 days are a blessing because we can work. The 7th day is a blessing because we can rest. Would you like your boss to say, okay, you work for me, no day off. What will you do? No, I'll die. But that's what we do with God. God is already saying, God is starting with a day off. Okay, I'm giving you the 7th day. Adam and Eve were created on the 6th day. The first day is the 7th day. Okay? This is my gift to you. We are refusing it. If God gives you $100, you accept it. God gives you $1,000, you accept it. God gives you a car, you accept it. But when God gives you a day, you don't accept it. That is following the instructions of the Lord. This is 40 years of training in the life of faith. Israel needs to get this ingrained in their being that God provides, that God heals. Think about it. These are two mighty revelations of faith that Abraham lived by. God provides, God heals. Look, if we can live by these two revelations, God provides, God heals. Most of life is like that. Think about it. God provides, God heals. Provides, He gives you the, provides means He gives you the provisions. He gives you, oh, God gave me this wife. God gave me this husband, you're very happy. God gave me this car, you're very happy. God gave me this house, you're very happy. And God says, I have another gift for you. I'm giving you the Sabbath day. Now you're not happy. You're saying, it's too long. By the way, observe some of the teaching ministries of Christ. How long do you think did Jesus teach? Huh? You will find the scriptures. In the morning, Jesus was teaching until the end of day. You'll find that. There was a time wherein He was praying for the sick until the dawn. He prayed for people overnight. Jesus doesn't minister like over 90% of the preachers today for 30 minutes. No, there were times you read your Bible, follow in His teaching. He will start in the morning and end in the afternoon and in the evening. And when He fed the 5,000, it's been with Him for hours. That's why I don't believe Jesus was shouting all the time. I think some of His teachings are very conversational and He just keeps on talking. People are asking questions. Have you noticed when you're asking questions, times fly by? But this is the master teacher. And they will listen to Him for hours. And sometimes He will pray for them overnight. We have got to go back to the Scriptures. The trials of our faith this year will be very different. I'm already praying when the government finalized the lifting of the COVID restrictions. Forget the riots, guys. If you're reading a situation differently, if you have millions of people nowhere to go back to, what are they going to do? Now they legalize drugs. What's going to happen? There will be more problem now reopening the economy than politicians would have us see. Now you have to remember, over 50%, some of you with work, you better be thankful to God you have work. The moment this thing opens, millions of people will have nothing to go back to. Some of those closed because of COVID, you think they will reopen, they will not reopen. You better cherish the blessing of work that God has given you right now. Okay? But not only cherish that, cherish the other work, that the other blessings that God gave you. Thank God for your children. Thank God for your spouses. Thank God for the day of the Lord. Amen. We'll continue this Sunday, okay? Let's all stand. Praise God.